Wavesfactory Spectre remade with Bitwig Stock. So, this is just a little idea I had because of how this works. So I'd say let's just first think about how this plugin works, and then maybe we can easily remake it with stock, which I'm pretty sure we can. So what this does is basically you add these bells here to your EQ, and then it saturates these EQ bits that it adds to your sound, but it doesn't saturate the overall sound. It only saturates the bit it adds, and it only does boosting. So you can set this to 100%, so it only adds stuff. It only plays the stuff it adds, it doesn't play anything else. So maybe we can take a look at what it adds, because I'm pretty sure I know what this does. I guess it's somewhat obvious. Let's get an EQ curve analyzer, and then just put this on both sides, set this as generator, and then look at. So yeah, we can see this is it just adds a bandpass filter, and I think that's why it adds these filter slopes, because this is just a 60 dB per octave bandpass filter is my guess. Because then you don't get phase cancellation. If we look at this here, if we would use a steeper bandpass filter, basically we would get this. Oh, actually we do get a bit of phase cancellation here. That's interesting. But yeah, basically it's just a bandpass filter that it saturates, and then it adds it to the original sound. With these different saturation algorithms, you can change the Q and you can change the dB, but you can't change the filter slope. So what we can easily do, if we want to remake this in Bitwig, let's just, I don't know, set this to an FX selector or something. We can get something like, ideally we would probably be using filter plus, but we don't want to use this saturation because it happens before the filter. So maybe use a sound key filter here, and we want a 2-pole bandpass filter here, 6 dB per octave, because anything higher will result in phase cancellation. See Dan Worrell's video on parallel bandpass filters, or my video on the transient stuff I did with sends and returns, or I don't know, there's lots of videos on this, I'm sure. So basically we want this here, sound key, bandpass 2-pole. Then we want this as an instrument layer because we want to mix it with the dry signal. And then we want to saturate this. Now I made a video on saturator, how to make different saturation curves, kind of. So in this case I want to saturate this with tube, just because it's my favorite saturation in Spectre 2. So you can see this is kind of the signal we will be adding if we listen to some white noise. Just, you know, so we hear what this does. It's just there we go. You can hear. This is basically the place in the EQ. And then one last thing we want is, this is what we mix in. So we get a dry signal here. And then this is basically like our filter band in Spectre. We can set a Q here. We can set a gain here. We select the saturation type by setting up different saturators. And then we can kind of mix this in with a dry signal. Boost different parts, and because it will be saturating the bit that it adds, it will sound a bit more natural. I really like Spectre for that reason. So let's get like a Q curve analyzer, just so you can see how this parallel bandpass with just a dry signal. Set as gen, and then you can kind of see how if we turn this gain up, this acts just like Spectre as a kind of notch it adds, and we can set the Q here. And so yeah, this kind of parallel bandpass to saturation is essentially the essence of Spectre. They use a couple other types here, like one that might be interesting. We've got solid tube warm. These are all kind of standard modes. They've got weird bit reduction modes. Class B basically means that what they're doing is, I looked this up in the manual, or just Google around a bit because I never heard of this before. But essentially class B is a type of saturation where you do this stuff on the left here. So you kind of turn down the quiet bits of the sound, and Spectre in their manual, they recommend this for drum sounds especially, because it kind of gates them, I suppose, and makes the edit bit snappier, so it kind of only adds it to the loud parts. But yeah, I really like the tube bit. Of course, tape is always an option, just symmetrical wave shaping. And this basically, if you want another filter band, you can just copy this filter plus, move it around, adjust the gain. If you don't want to turn the gain to 0, and then you can kind of create these. Now I delete the saturator. Of course, we need a saturator in here, because otherwise this is pointless. This would be like the clean mode in Spectre where it doesn't add any saturation. Yeah, so and then you can see these two bands it's adding just like Spectre in parallel and saturating each, so it kind of prevents intermodulation too much by just saturating this bandpass filter, so that's nice and clean. And maybe also, this is how to remake in Bitwig. Maybe another side of this, I wouldn't even really call it a discovery, is that if you ever need like a parallel bandpass filter, you can just use Spectre and turn the mix to 100%, and you can use Spectre saturation algorithms. So like, let's look at this EQ curve analyzer, set this as Gen, and you can see this is just a bandpass filter now whose Q you can control. And so yeah, if I ever might do like parallel bandpass filters on Ascend and then do my silly little transient shaping tricks I talked about, I might just use Spectre. Because Spectre is a nice plugin, of course. You can do like oversampling settings and have different modes. But if you can't afford this and want the same effect, you can use this. And if you just want the high shelves, you instead of using a parallel bandpass filter, what you're going to use is just... This is interesting. Just basically a high pass or low pass filter, I guess. Or this technically seems to be actually just a high shelf with the shelf boost on a lot and then the dry stuff turned down, with whereas still at 100% mix. But yeah, just make sure you're using a 6-pole high pass or low pass filter. The only reason the bandpass was 12-pole because we had filter on either side. Because anything above 6-pole, let me just demo this again, even though we've done this many times. Get a filter plus. Anything above 6-pole, actually you can just do this, I just realized. You don't even need this instrument chain, but I guess this is... No, let's use this instead. It's easier to control. Get a filter. Now get a tool just for the dry signal. The issue if we use like anything... let's get a sound key. And then if we use anything above a 6-pole high pass filter, so you can see how this kind of adds like a high shelf boost with some cramping here, of course, but that's just because lack of oversampling. If we use anything above this for the bandpass, so use a 4-pole bandpass filter, you can see how we're starting to get these kinds of ugly dips here. And that's really not ideal, especially if we go higher. Get like an 8-pole bandpass filter and then boost this. These dips, that's just too much. You can see this kind of wiggle because this is already saturating a bit, but we want to control it more. So if we use like this high pass filter at 8-pole, you can just see how using an 8-pole high pass filter, you won't really get this high shelf effect. You will get these weird wiggles here. While if you set it to a 6-pole, you still get a relatively clean high shelf, even though doing this in parallel and getting some phase cancellation, it's only really affecting the curves. So yeah, I hope that it wasn't too messy a video. I've been talking fast and I've been going through a bunch of different stuff, but that's just a quick idea how to remake Wavesfactory Spectre with Bitwig Stock, which is kind of a neat trick because of course you can expand upon this. You can add other effects to the bandpass shelves like transient shapers like I did in my transient shaping video, or compression, or whatever. You can add a phaser, of course. That's gonna fuck up everything, but you can do whatever you want. But I'm not responsible if you do anything stupid with this. So yeah, thanks for watching. Hope you found that somehow insightful, interesting, or clicked off before you decided that it was boring, at least, so I didn't waste too much of your time. See you in the next one. Bye.